Hey, welcome back to the Infamous Podcast. This is Brian.
This is Spider-Man Daryl. I'm looking at a Spider-Man pop shirt, like
Okay.
with one of the Spider-Man black lights that Jess put in
Oh,
a picture frame. It's
cool.
pretty freaking sweet.
Very cool. So this is episode 300. We made it, y'all. 300 episodes. 6 years. Celebrating Infamous. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like when you told me that probably a few months ago when you were talking about when you founded this.
Yeah.
I, was, I had to do a double take in the sense of, and of course those that listen know I haven't been there that whole time. I've been in the background circling around, like a shark waiting for the chum to come out of the water. Or
I thought you were going to
throwing.
say like the puppet master just controlling the show from the shadows. No, but I mean, you've been on. You were before
Yeah.
you were the permanent co-host. You guested for at least 3 episodes. I mean,
Mhm.
3 or 4 at least. And it's one of those things that when it was time to switch co-hosts again, you were the natural choice. But no, I mean, like I was talking to Brian earlier this week, and he was like, "Hey, you're at Fretboard," and I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" I was like, "I posted about it for over a month." So I didn't realize I needed to reach out to everybody I knew. But no, I mean it's been a ton of fun. It's been super exciting. I mean, this is obviously the last episode of the
Go out with a
show.
bang.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But
It's like Bernie, was it Bernie? What's the comedian's name? He was in the movie Mr. 3000.
oh,
Trying to get,
Bernie Mac.
yeah,
R.I.P.
Bernie Mac.
R.I.P. Bernie Mac.
Yeah.
The Bernie Mac show is low key one of the most underrated sitcoms of all time.
Dude, he was so freaking funny.
Yeah, he was a funny dude. But no, I mean it's like I don't know. Here's the one thing is right now, like so we're coming off of episode 299, which was live at Fretboard, which you haven't listened to yet. Please go listen to it after you're done listening to this. But it's weird to be alone in a room recording again. I mean, I know we just did one, but update, they want us to come back, which is exciting, probably around November. So that'll give us time to plan more shenanigans.
We'll be gone till November.
We've done that before. We took September to December off when I hurt my hip. So, but no, it's been a crazy fun ride. You know, when we were recording last week at Fretboard, before recording and talking to people, and a lot of people were like, "Hey, I like I'm here because so and so told me about the show, and I've been binging it, and I started from the beginning. I'm like, oh, don't do that." And it's not because the content's not good; it's because the audio quality is so bad. I think I told you. I don't know if I told you this or not, but I actually went back recently, like probably 4 weeks ago, and just started like I was on the website and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna listen to the first episode. I made it like 5 minutes in, and the quality of the sound was driving me so crazy. I was like, I can't do it. I don't understand how anybody listened to this.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of we both follow just various content creators on YouTube and other spaces, and if you go back even with them, and it's the same thing, especially the ones that have been around for a while, and they'll say it like because there's been some that have watched their own like this is cringe. This is one of my first YouTube videos that I ever posted, and they'll watch it with and make a video about them watching it.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
but yeah,
on the first episode, we were still thinking we were going to call it Going Geek News, based off of my blog,
right.
which that lasted an episode, and we kind of like said it in unison. This is Going Geek News. It was ridiculous and stupid and like you said, cringe. Yet I refuse to take it down. So
Well,
I don't know. I mean, I think it should be there. I mean, like warts and all, it should be there.
oh, absolutely.
But like, yeah,
Too much now. People try to, you know, wipe the board of certain things,
hmm
whether it be serious or just something like, hey, I did something. in the past, and I'm so much better at it now because I have better sound quality. I
Oh
have
yeah.
better experience, all that
Yeah, I
stuff.
mean, I have better planning. I have better sources. I have a better co-host. You know, like you've really added to the show. I mean, everyone who I talk to has said so, and you know, you've helped me be excited, not just excited about it, but like really like into
Make the podcast
making
fun
it.
again.
Yeah, like make podcasting fun again. You definitely did that because it was you know with the other guy it was kind of a chore at the end because we weren't getting along. And you know, this is not the place to air that and whatever. And I wish him luck in whatever he does in life.
I wish
But
you good fortune in the wars to come.
yeah, right. So, but at the end of the day, right? It's the whole point of the Infamous podcast when it started with Brian and I was to make all of this stuff accessible to people, to make it where you could listen to what we're talking about and not feel like we're talking down to you and not feel like it's not okay to be a normie. We got away from
Because
that before you started. Like we really got away from that for a couple years. And you know, it's funny, like kind of going back and looking through things. Like at one point we were a Walking Dead fan show. I mean, honestly, we really were. I mean,
yeah,
we were talking about it every single week, not just why the show was on. So
yeah, I remember some of those days.
yeah, and like I mean that was okay, but like I was hate watching Walking Dead at that point, and you know it's like, well, we could keep doing this and you know have listeners and just be miserable about it and quit eventually, or you know get deeper, go back deeper into like lore and things like that. And then now with you,
Yeah.
we're back, we're finally back into comics, and you know I'm loving it. I went. I've unfortunately not been going to the comic book store every week because of just a time constraint right now, but I've been trying to go every like 3 weeks. And so I went to Thursday on the 22nd of July. And my poll was like $340 or not 300, it was like $140. So
Man, I thought you'd
well, I
because you
got
haven't been in a while.
well,
Yeah.
I hadn't been in a while, but I also had got the kid. I had ordered her the first 4 trades of Deadly Class because she watched the show and she liked it. And
Okay.
then on top of that, I had some Avatar pins come in.
Okay.
But I mean, I still had like 22 books, which is actually way down. Like, you know, because I stopped buying books from writers that I don't like. Actually, not just writers, just from creators who are not interested in the characters. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but after we recorded, I did have a couple of people come up to me and be like, "Hey, I really like that. I'm a bigger nerd than I thought I was because I understood what you guys were talking about." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, that's what we try to do. We try and make you feel
There-
bad about yourself, and you know, maybe give yourself a wedgie."
So they did a cap. I understood that reference.
Exactly. So yeah. So yeah. I mean, the one guy went home and bullied himself. I know he did.
Yeah, and to your point about talking to normies, look, everybody is a normie in
And,
some
like,
property. Everyone.
When we say normie, we're not being mean about it necessarily. It's
Yeah.
just for lack of a better, like, I don't want to call people civilians. You know?
Yeah, that's a little bit too stuck up right there.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm kind of in my own butt region now. But
Yeah, so normie basically is someone who watches. Again, before the show, we were talking about Game of Thrones, and Game of Thrones got its popularity not from people that love the books, because again, I was one of those that read the books before the show.
yeah, I
Loved
was
the
not,
books.
but I caught up real quick.
Yeah, but Game of Thrones would not have been, and this is what sometimes people that love these properties, whether it be comics, whether books, what have you, they get so focused on these weren't made for the fans. And to a point, I won't even say to a point, for the most part, I agree with that. And when things fail and they're not made for the fans, but people like that, we also have to see that studios have to pull other people in. And there are certain changes. Now, granted, most of the changes they make are unnecessary, but there are certain changes that probably do need to be made in certain properties to make it more appealing to fans.
Like, I'm okay,
That-
like, with
yeah.
oversimplification of things that are
Right.
complicated in the comics. But, I mean, we were just talking. Since 2008, they got, like Marvel, for example, got a lot of things right.
Yes.
They got more right than they got wrong. Let's put it that way.
Right.
By a large margin. We're talking, like, 80-20 rule there, like right to wrong. And it just seems like they're getting a lot of stuff wrong now for whatever reason. And, we were, and we'll talk about He-Man when I get back from vacation. Because I
yes.
need to
We're both going to have thoughts.
I need to go through it again.
I think you have to take vacation after watching that. That's why you're going on vacation.
I mean, honestly, that's part of it. Cause I kind of binged through it while I was working today. I mean, it's only five 24-minute episodes, which means the runtime of actual cartoon is probably 18 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's like 20. Well, because with the intro and then it's like 3 minutes of credits.
At least 3 minutes of credits. So anyway, but the nicest thing I can say about it is that, and this is not a bad thing, but the animation is fantastic.
Yeah, that's not always the case with shows either. So
it's really not. But that's kind of where the niceness ends. I don't know.
And I told you, at this point, I haven't finished it, but I have frustrations. I have more frustrations with things where you see the potential.
Yeah.
And not just because it's a property like He-Man, but even when you see an original thing and you see the potential and you're just wondering, what the hell were you thinking going away from these little nuggets of goodness and then to your own direction?
Yeah.
And again, with this Masters of the Universe, it's more than just the execution. It's some of the stuff that the writer and executive producer Kevin Smith did on the outside that really turned a lot of fans off.
With the way he promoted the show, I think,
and basically calling people out, calling them liars when this show proved that they weren't. So he looks very, very bad.
Yeah, I agree, and I like Clownfish TV as I don't use Clownfish TV as a resource for our show often. Though, honestly, like, they're right more often than they're wrong. And, the thing with Clownfish is they're former insiders who now are on the outside. And so they're always going to have that bias of not being part of the access group anymore. But that being said, it doesn't mean that they don't still have like allies and sources. And I feel like they're mostly unbiased. Like, we both love Ryan Kennel's RK Outpost, or Kennel. I forget how you say it, but
I think it's Kennel.
Kennel, yeah, he's super biased, right? But I have to take that. I have to take that in. But I find that entertaining. That's the beauty of it.
And again, this is the thing. Everybody has their biases, and especially when you're talking about this geekdom. We all have our biases.
Yeah.
It's just, can you rise above it and say, because there are things that I don't like, I'm biased against, and I can say, you know what, I didn't like that, but I can see why people liked it. Or I love this.
Yeah.
But I can see why people don't like it.
So,
you know? So
no, I get it.
I love, like, for example, I love The Witcher, the TV show. Yeah. Again, partially because of the books, partially because of the game. Henry Cavill's in it, all of that stuff. I really love the show, despite its flaws. Just doesn't. She said, "I don't think I like this."
Yeah.
And you know what? I can see why people like her or other people don't like the show. It can be very confusing. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing. I'm not one of those that it's like, okay, if you don't like this, you are stupid. Well, there are certain things I would say that about, but
I mean, like, I liked it. I'm not. Did you bring your latex super simp suit for Henry Cavill to Jess's while you're staying there?
It's funny. It's funny you say that, because while I'm watching it again with her, even though she's not, we're talking about it, so I can clear stuff up here and there, but I am seeing more of the flaws. Yeah. And I think, again, it's been over a year since I watched it the last time. So
I thought you were going to say, while we're watching it, she looks over and says, "Do you need a minute alone?" Just you and Henry.
No, we'd be buds. We'd be best friends.
Oh, hell yeah.
We'd be best of friends.
Bestest. The besties of the bestesses. Yeah, I think that's like the beauty of it, right? I try, like, I definitely have my biases. I really do. And you know, my biases are mostly rooted around storytelling and the lack thereof. But I also do get I get upset when they take something like a period piece, right? And they're like, "Oh, well, let's just add like random people in here who were not like in that region." Like I'm shocked that Vikings on History didn't have more black Vikings.
I am very glad they did.
Yeah, it was on the History Channel, so like hopefully they were gonna do. I
Yeah.
mean, I know it was a dramatization. I always thought that was like remember Deadliest Warrior on Spike TV.
Yes.
So when
I used to love that
When
show.
Vikings first came out, I thought that's what it was, that they were just going to be like Deadliest Warring. Well, I don't even know how to say that. Words are hard. That's what Vikings was. Is they were just going to show like historic things and be like, this is how they made an axe, this is how they made a canoe, and this is how they made their sailing ships and farmed, and this is how they raped and pillaged. But and that's not what it was at all. And it took me a while to watch that. I actually thought a good episode would be to look back over the last 7 years and all the things that have like started and like been canceled that we like. But then I was thinking about it and I was like, that would be like a 40 episode miniseries.
Yeah. I was about to say that the list is long
So,
and distinguished.
but I mean, we could start with like the movies, or not movies, TV series that we liked that had 2 seasons or less, right? Like like that's a pretty easy list of maybe 10 or 15 shows. And to be honest, they're mostly all Netflix shows that were back before Netflix lost their goddamn minds.
Yeah. I'll tell you one show that won't be on that list: Supernatural.
No, it didn't get canceled. It just it ended before we started,
That's good.
and
Yeah.
then it had that cool retrospective. Did you see the looks of confusion on people at Fretboard when we did that? That was really funny. Like 3 people in the room got what I was getting, what I was saying.
Yeah, there were a lot of
Brian, it went on for like 47,000 episodes or seasons. I know. It's called denial. But no, it's like, but just kind of get back to it. Like, this has been fun. I'm kind of glad that Fretboard wasn't the 300th episode, because I kind of wanted to look back and talk about it a bit. But I definitely, after doing that, I don't know about you, I didn't sleep at all on Monday night because I was so like amped up.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I didn't go to bed right away
Yeah.
either. So
And I hung out like probably another 40 minutes after you left.
okay.
So, but I mean, like, I wasn't drinking or anything. It was just hanging out with everybody and chatting and having a good time. But I mean, to see the number of people that, because when we started, it was happy hour, so like there were a lot of people there, and I made a joke at the end that there were 400 people in there, and there were when we were finished, there were probably close to 35 people, but when we started, there were over 100. And it's not like
Yeah.
those people were like, oh, let's leave. I mean, I don't know how much you kind of were looking out at everybody. But I mean, like, the people who were there just to drink and happened to be on Monday night and a podcast was there, like, they were enjoying it and you could see it.
Yeah, yeah. I would catch people sometimes.
Yeah.
Checking us out.
Yeah,
Like,
which is
"Oh,
why they
what's this
invited
they're
us.
talking about?"
Why they invited us back. So it's just one of those things. But yeah, definitely listen to that episode. It was a lot of fun. I don't know. I think, like, thinking back to 6 years, right? 300 episodes. There's a bunch of highlights. Like, my favorite episode that we've recorded so far is me remaking the DC universe.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that one or listen to that one.
Yeah, it's
again.
around like the 180s. I have to remember. Actually, you know what? I'm at my computer, and I could probably look it up.
You can do that on those things.
Allegedly. Shh. But that was like a great one, because I actually like sat around with my notebook for like 2.5 weeks, just walking around. Oh, rebuilding DC Entertainment is 151. I highly recommend starting at episode 151.
Making a note of that now.
Yeah, episode 96 with talking with Jay Torres the second time, when my daughter Haley is on the show to interview him because his comic The Mighty Zodiac was the very first comic that she ever picked at the comics book store, like herself. That wasn't like a kid's comic, right? That was off the main wall, and it was great. And Jay is fantastic. He's a Filipino Canadian comic book writer who, he did Teen Titans Go. He's been Eisner nominated. He's written like for Yo Gabba Gabba. He wrote Wally. He wrote for Wonder Woman for a few issues, and he wrote some X-Men. Yeah, I mean, the guy was great. I would have him back at any time. When we talked to Brandon Montclair for Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur before that came out, like that was great, and that was actually a bonus episode. So if you just go to the episode, that was from December 8th, 2015. So that was in the first year.
Oh, I was about to say that was one of the on the first floor.
And the whole reason that episode happened was because I had written a blog post about Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur coming out, tweeted about it, and he messaged me. He's like, "Hey, I didn't see where you posted your podcast about this." And I was like, "Oh no, that was just a blog post. Do you want to come on and talk about it?" And he did, and it was great. And it was one of those things where let me see. It was about an hour, and there's a point where he starts ripping on DC Comics because of the experience he had there. But I mean, he's prolific. He's a great writer, and he's written some really cool stuff. And yeah, he wrote the Fearsome Four from Fear Itself. I don't know. Did you read the Fear Itself miniseries?
I did not.
Or not miniseries, event series.
No.
Okay. It was really good. Well, not really good. I really liked it. It was like there's a lot of people who didn't like it, but I liked it. But yeah, it's like I said, it's one of those things where it's just cool that he reached out and did that. And like talking to some people like that, like talking to like Miguel Guerrera, who's a comic book artist and writer from France who does the the Earth Dream or whatever it's called, anthologies where he gets a bunch of people together. Like that was a amazing like podcast with him in the first year. But yeah, so it's just kind of been growing and become its own thing. We're very conversational now, whereas before we weren't scripted, but at the same time we were like, all right, yeah, let's just go with the flow. We do far less random cast now because we're much better at planning. We've stopped doing episodes that were based around things that you should be looking at. So that's always a bonus. But yeah, so anyway, no, and honestly, I just want to say thanks for, like you said, making podcasting fun again.
Yeah, and bringing it to the masses. Again, as we said, there are some of the people that we listen to that have a more, I don't want to say militant, but stricter...
militant is 100% right.
Okay, yeah. A militant perspective on things, and it's not. So my cat just walked into the room, and say hi, Cooper. Say hi to everybody.
Meow.
He's just looking at me like, okay, what are they going to do?
He's like,
me?
You named me after Cooper Manning. I'm not happy about this.
So, yeah. And that's what I try not to, I like how we, like with the fretboard, again, definitely watch that or listen to that because as you said, when we started off, one of the things you said is that, we've been digging on, Hollywood and comics and this and that. It seems like a little bit, a lot lately. And again, we're just being honest.
Right.
With that being said, talking about some of the stuff that we love, I think that because I do know negativity tends to sell. When you're ripping on stuff, it tends to, get ears. But what also does is that, hey, this thing is fantastic. This is why I love this. This is why I love Star Wars. This is why I love comics. This is why I fell in love with comics. So
right.
getting back to a little bit more of that, or continuing on, I should say, because there are things that we love.
Yeah.
Superman and Lois, for
Yes.
example. Absolutely love it. And, there are things like The Witcher coming back. Things like, I cannot wait for Cobra Kai coming. That stuff like that. We're going to be gushing about those.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not The Witcher, but definitely Cobra Kai.
I'm excited for Dune, and hopefully we'll be gushing about that. And, it's, it's just one of those things that it's,
because look, there's been stuff we've talked about where, like, off air, where we said, you know what, we probably shouldn't talk about that because we're just gonna rip it to shreds.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's how we open
let's
the
find
Fretboard
something
episode.
else.
It's like, hey, we've been kind of down on the state of pop culture, so we're gonna be we were really positive. We talked about things that we legitimately love, and
Right.
and yeah, so there's no reason not to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll probably maybe in September sometime when you get a chance to play it, talk a little bit about Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, I mean, I love
for
sushi.
example. All I just have to say is, open the gate!
Tsushima.
Open the gate! Open the gate!
Is that from the game?
Yeah. It's one of those scenes. It's like, holy shit, that
Nice.
was awesome.
Okay,
So.
cool. I can't wait. But yeah, so anybody who's been on the show, anybody who's listened to the show, anybody who is who's been a fan of our special brand of nonsense over the years, I just want to say thanks for listening. We're hopefully gonna have 300 more episodes at some point. Concurrently, and this is one of those things where I feel like you and I are just hitting our stride, and it's only gonna get better, and yeah.
Yes, the sky is the limit.
I wouldn't go
Or
that
really-
far, but
or the internet connections are the limit.
yeah, there you go. The internet connections are the limit. But yeah, I mean, like, we've been through 3 logos, 4 logos. I really like our current logo.
Logos, not locos, people,
Yeah.
not the drink.
No. So, we've got 2 shops now online. You can get some bespoke Infamous Podcast gear from Flying Pork Apparel, or you can check out our Infamous Podcast Threadless shop. Links are both on the website, and we've got some really cool shirts. I actually, on the Threadless one, I made a Nerd Den Studio, which is where we normally record from, where I am all by myself right now. Which with a logo that Matt Mitchell made for us, and it's great. We've had the guys from Roma Collectibles on a whole bunch. His wife Mary Mercenary and Joe Colton. The guys from What's on Joe Mind, or as I prefer to call it, What Joe Talking About. The G.I. Joe podcast, which I definitely am going to reach out to Mike to see if he wants to come on and talk a little, Snake Eyes, because I have a feeling that they're going to be apologists for it in a good way. That's not saying that's a bad thing. So yeah, it's just
Now I'm
one
going
of
to have
those
to
things.
listen to that. I'm really curious to see a G.I. Joe podcast.
Well, I
think
mean,
about
they're good. They are great. If you guys, if there's one, here's the thing: listen to our podcast every week. What's on Joe Mind? Beers and Beards. To kind of get the other side of some of the things we talk about. The Everything is Permitted with Julian, who's been on. Thanks for coming on and having me on your show. These are the type of things that we like to listen to as well and talk about. I think try and avoid not avoid, but anything that comes out from Marvel, for example, like This Week in Marvel. For years, we had superior sound and content to them, hands down. And the only reason they have more listeners than us is because it was put out by Marvel Comics.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not me with sour grapes or anything like that, because we are a top 5% podcast in the world. We're in the top 200 ranked for television on all of iTunes, so thank you all for putting us there. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So anyway, all right. So This is the 300th episode, Daryl.
300.
There's only one way to celebrate the 300th episode.
As a man or not at all?
Yes, and Daryl, if you come back with your shield or on it.
Give them nothing and take from them everything.
Yes, but we're going to be civil while we do it because we're going to talk about 300 right now. So I had wanted to just talk about 300, but I was like, you know what? That's too big of a troll. But no, like seriously, like 300th episode, why not? 300 came out in 2007, which was 8 years before this podcast started. So
Yeah.
why not like do a little throwback? I mean, it came out in what, February of 2017?
March.
No, February 14th. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
In Berlin, it opened on Valentine's Day. In March 9th of 2007 is when it opened in the United States.
It had that big of a jump in Berlin? A jump start, I should say?
It was a film festival. It was at the Berlin International Film Festival.
Okay.
So we've talked a lot about Zack Snyder on this podcast, especially lately.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry, go ahead.
Sort of Zack Snyder fanboy.
I would say you're a Zack Snyder stan.
I'm not a stan.
Yeah, you're a Zack Snyder stan.
Sucker Punch, I can rip Sucker Punch, so I'm not a stan.
But, okay, maybe I don't understand what a stan is, because a stan just won't rip anything.
I don't know. I actually don't know what a stan is either.
I mean, I just thought a stan was someone who was like super passionate about this stuff, but I don't know. Maybe you are, you're just a fanboy, because fanboys can rip things. So, well, some fanboys. I mean, that's kind of why I don't like other nerds, because they won't change their minds. It's as bad. It's bad. It's as bad, or if not worse, than politics.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, like, this is my favorite Zack Snyder movie.
Yes,
without
absolutely.
doubt.
Oh, absolutely.
And
again, you're talking to someone who absolutely loves Man of Steel.
Yeah.
And 300. It's one of those movies when I used to have cable and I would just go through the channels. Oh, 300's on, even though it's on cable. I'd probably watch 25 minutes of it and then just throw in my copy.
Right. Dude, I do that with movies all the time. Well, I used to. When I'm at my like father-in-law's house, if they're watching something, I'll take the remote and like pull up like Disney Plus or Netflix or whatever and just put it on there because I can't deal with commercials.
I'm the captain now.
I will pay whatever price to not watch commercials.
Yes, you will.
Like I literally throw away $10 a month on YouTube Premium. I mean, I watch a ton of YouTube, but like, so it's worth it just to not watch commercials and to be able to close the phone while I'm working out. So
see, that's the one thing I would do that for is being able to close the phone.
Yeah, but I did it for Cobra Kai, and then I never got rid of it because I was like, this is an amazing experience. But that's beside the point. So 300 one is I like to say RoboCop 2 was the last good thing that Frank Miller did. I think 300 might be the last good thing that Frank Miller did. But this is definitely Gerard Butler's best work by far as well. This introduced us really introduced the world to Michael Fassbender.
Yes, it did.
Dominic West, Lena Headey. I mean, the cast in this is really, really good. You had what's his name? Andrew Plevin, he's been in something recently. He was just casted. He's an English actor. What was he just cast in? Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, was it David? What is it? Hold on.
Which one?
David Wyndham.
Oh yeah,
who played
Dilios, the narrator, who was Sean Bean's little brother in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Eric, not I am having brain farts all over the place
Rodrigo
right now.
Santoro was in
Yes,
it.
yes, the much maligned Ronti. He was Faramir in Two Towers and Return of the King. He was also in Van Helsing,
Yeah.
which is kind of underrated. But no, he's great.
Ooh.
He's the like being the narrator for 300 is great because he's got that voice. So
Yeah, that was my cat.
and because he's like, and my king died, and my brothers died.
died. Yeah.
But fret not, because there are 10,000. Just the way he does it. I'm gonna have to find. I spent like a good chunk of last night trying to figure out how to rip my or break the what is it, the digital rights on my my version of this from iTunes, so I could cut it up for audio. Where it's like, I should probably just go look online and see if I can download stuff like from like audio from websites, but I wanted some specific things. So, oh, holy crap. Did you know Eli Snyder is the young Leonidas, the 7 and 8-year-old Leonidas?
I think I read that somewhere, but now
that's one of Zack Snyder's
that's
progeny.
pretty cool.
That's cool. That's like Jet Lucas being the Jedi who had or the Padawan who had the last stand to get Bail Organa out of the temple.
Oh, that was okay. Yeah.
So, but no, I mean, this is an example of a movie that really respected the comic book, that followed it almost like they added some stuff and they took some stuff out obviously, because like 300, the comic is not all gold, but I mean, they did the high points of that comic shot for shot from the.
I was about to say,
comic.
yeah, yes, absolutely,
and that's great. That's what they should do.
Yeah, and I'm one of those nerds in the sense of I used to watch the History Channel when it was the History Channel, when we had, oh yeah, let's this 5-part special on the rise and fall of Rome, or samurais in ancient Japan, or in this case the rise and fall of the Greek nation states, and how Greece became what it was. And I absolutely, like, even before this movie came out, I was a fan of just that type of ancient and medieval history.
Yep.
And I've had books on Sparta, and well, not just Sparta, but there's a book I had called Who Were the Spartans, and you would not be surprised, but there is a lot of stuff that happens in 300 that is taken from history, in the sense of some of the stuff like the Agoge, and
it's the battle. Well, I mean, there's that, but also the Battle of Thermopylae is a real thing that happened. Obviously, this dramatized it quite a bit.
yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because Michael Mann was planning to do, Gianni Nunari, was planning to do a film about the Battle of Thermopylae, and then Michael Mann had planned to film the battle based on the book Gates of Fire, but 300 was so impressive. Neither of those two movies ever came out.
Yeah, well, I don't know if this is one of those movies I used to watch as a kid, the 300 Spartans. It was from 1962. Starred Richard Egan, Ralph Richardson, Diana Baker. So it told the same story, just in a different way.
Sure.
It even had the the mention of the immortals and fighting the immortals and all that. And so that was one of those fun. I think I have that still on DVD somewhere. But 300 itself, one of the things we always talk about with Zack Snyder is the fact that he is, and you said this a lot, Zack Snyder should just be a director of photography.
100%. Man, the guy he's got an eye, man. He can make, like, his color palette's a little muddy. Not gonna get into that too much, because everybody knows that. But that man, using green screen and some practical sets, can create a beautiful like scene on a movie. But when you give him like real life stuff, like if you the what was it, the Las Vegas one with Batista,
Army of the Dead.
Army of the Dead. That movie, like, even though like it's got a bunch of weird like focus issues, like purposely focus issues, like that movie's still like really good looking. It's better looking than it ever should have been.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it almost takes away from it. Like it should not have looked as nice. Like throw some like VHS wavy lines in there to kind of to ugly it up a bit.
Yeah, and there's a hyper realism to 300, and not just for the backdrop and settings, but for the torture camp the actors went through to get in shape for this. I mean,
yeah.
That was one of those things. One of the first things I used to watch on YouTube when this movie came out is all the stuff about them going training, never doing the same workout. Never doing the same workout twice.
Yeah,
it
this
was great.
and Spartacus, like watching those guys workouts. But Zack Snyder even got in on it. Like it's not like he just had his cast and stunt people getting like jacked with like 14 packs and being all vascular and muscly. Like he got in on it, and he did it too. So yeah, it's you got to respect that.
Yeah, and I just, again, this is my Zack Snyder fandom coming out. I just love listening to him talk about movies and just his enthusiasm for it. Like there are times he really sounds like just a kid. And 300, well, the movie's not for kids. Let's put that out there.
No.
Like when I said hyper real includes the blood spatter or the blood spray or puddles, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Extreme. It's an ultra violent movie.
Yep.
This
is definitely on ultra violent mode for anybody. But I mean, like, this is what the look and feel of this is what gave Stephen S. Tonight the look and feel for Spartacus, because it had the same blood splatter.
Oh, absolutely,
like that, and everybody was ripped. I mean, it was a TV budget, so they only had 12 packs instead of 14 packs. But still, I mean, it was great. And think about this. This movie, 2007, right? So I mean, we're talking, almost 20 years ago at this point, in a few years. $60 million budget.
Yeah.
Like this movie today comes out, and I'm not even talking about with like inflated prices and not even current inflation prices, just general inflation for that long. I mean, this movie coming out today is still probably like a $70 million movie.
Yeah.
It's not like they did anything that's gonna like add to it. And it made almost $460 million at the box office. And it's rated R, hard R.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So, today this movie comes out and it's, people are complaining about an English guy playing Leonidas and, that sort of thing. But I mean, this movie today, I mean, with inflation and things like that, it's probably closer to a $650 million movie. Like easy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
because
one of the other things,
movies like Deadpool, like breaking down that barrier for rated R movies for people to go see them and feel good about themselves.
Yeah, and again, it wasn't a rated R movie that was a serious take. And when I say serious take, I mean trying to get everything correct from a prop standpoint, like say a Gladiator, which came out in 2000.
Right? Yeah, 2000. Yeah. No,
yeah,
Gladiator was 99. It won the Oscar in 2000, I believe.
Yeah. Or was it two? Yeah, it's been 20 years plus years for Gladiator. So
you're right. It was 2000. My bad.
It was 2000. Okay. So there was a different feel, but this movie, like you said, it showed that hey, you can still entertain, you can still put butts in the seats with a hyper violent movie that is well done, and has doesn't have to be a strong story, but a vehicle that tells a story for a purpose or for entertainment. Yep. And again, I said the story part because again, this is a very simple story. You have King Leonidas as the king of Sparta where he finds out that the Persians are marching towards, the city states of Greece. And again, this is not a united Greece right now.
Mm-mm.
He understands that, look, someone has to at least get in their way while the other city states come together as a united front instead of all these squabbling nation states as they were then.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very simple of him taking his 300. And again, they do take some liberties. In reality, I think it was 300 Spartans, but there were also 1,000 or so other, Greek, or I'm going to use Greek, even though they're in the land of what became Greece. There were 1,000, 1,500. The numbers vary as far as how many, other non-Spartans there were. But you see that a little bit with some of the guy, what does he call them? Rank amateurs?
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
But
they do their part.
The Arcadians, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
They
see,
see
old friend?
role. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I brought more soldiers than you did.
Arcadian, what is your profession? I'm a basket weaver. You Arcadian, what's your profession?
A potter.
I'm a potter. You Arcadian, what's your... I wash people's feet. God damn it. Didn't you bring a single soldier with you, you motherfucker?
Yeah.
So,
it was funny. The only guy that didn't use sir was the blacksmith. He was just like, blacksmith.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's like, come on, he's a black. But here's the thing: they showed Leonidas a tremendous amount of respect, right? That was cool.
Yes,
and he showed them respect in return, because at no point did he say, "Oh, you're only a potter." No, he said, "I brought more soldiers than you did." There was nothing wrong with that. Like, he still he appreciated them being there, and he's like, I'm probably going to use you as cannon fodder or mortal fodder, as the case may be.
Yeah, because what the thing is that Sparta was their army. That's all they did. Mm-hmm. You even look back in Rome, and Rome, a lot of the guys were, they did farming and things Legion, like that on the side.
Yeah, they were senators,
and they were called in.
Yeah.
Look at Gladiator, for example. What does Maximus want to do? He wants to go back home to, farm his villa.
Well, his son wants to be horses, so he needs to get back and
really he wants to be one.
He needs to nip that in the bud immediately. It's like, dude, you can't be a horse for a whole stretch of anatomical reasons. So, anyway, but no, you're right. But like, you also have to remember too, is like Rome. What was it? Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon. Did not the Roman army was not allowed inside the gates of Rome.
Mm-hmm.
So, they couldn't necessarily have a full-time standing army. I mean, probably the only people who trained the way the Spartans did were gladiators.
Yeah.
And you see, with the story of Spartacus, you're the legend, I guess, of Spartacus. I mean, it happened. It was the slave uprising was real. And those were real characters in history, but the facts are what have been kind of lost to time. But the gladiators who stood up, they were a real problem for the Roman army.
Mm-hmm.
So and the Roman army to not be hyperbolic was legion. I mean, there were tens of thousands of soldiers, and you were talking a handful of gladiators and a couple thousand slaves.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, and you look at history with the gates of Thermopylae. You're legitimately talking approximately 300 soldiers. There were probably a few more, give or take. Mm-hmm. But that being said, they held that gate for days against. What was it? 100,000 is what Xerxes showed up with.
Yes. So even if they did have an extra, 1,500 or so, versus 100,000, but what they did is they used as what Leonidas said. We will use how Greece herself against them, and what you do again. And that's just basic that's battle tactics. If you have a superior force, the thing you don't want a superior force to do is to surround you.
Right.
So if you can make them funnel in a smaller area, their numbers count for nothing.
Yeah, as they are so fond of saying in the movie. So they're like, they fought in this small area where their numbers count for nothing. Like that was a line that was mentioned like 17 times in the movie.
Yeah, I'm thinking that you have to have this would be a good drinking game to watch
Yes,
300.
yes. Every time they do their hoorah version of the Spartan army is a good one. I will say though, this did bring about my favorite line that Michael Fassbender has ever mentioned is when he tells the slave master, then we'll fight in the shade. When he talks about he goes, our arrows, as his arm's cut off and he's bleeding to death, our arrows will blot out the sun. And he just looks at him without missing a beat. Well, then we'll fight in the shade. And then Astanos later on starts laughing because he finally got what he was talking about. But the best, he's like, you fought well for a woman.
Yeah,
But it's just there's so many great one-liners, and I think that the other cool thing is the camaraderie among the characters that we get to see. Because this movie spawned a sequel, 300 Rise of an Empire, which takes place at approximately the same time. And the
the Athenians.
The Athenians, thank you. Are fighting the naval portion of this battle.
And go ahead.
Sorry.
I was going to say at that time, Athens had a kick-ass navy, and they had beaten the Spartans on more than one occasion because of that navy. Because again, the Spartans were like the land troops, the shock troops, and
they were the infantry.
The infantry. And
I guess
the Athenians
infantry is probably not like.
No, they're more like the special forces.
Yeah, there you go.
So, and the Athenians, and Sullivan Stapleton
he was really good.
The star. Yeah, I really liked him in that. Eva Green was in that.
I really liked Eva Green too.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I like Eva Green though. Like she's actually really good. Did you ever watch? I mean, what was the movie? Mrs. Peregrine's. Was that her?
Oh yeah, the children,
the House for Wayward Orphans or whatever. Like I think that was her. I liked her.
Yeah, if you want to watch her like a performance from her, check out Penny Dreadful. It's still on Netflix. It's 3 seasons. It was on Showtime. Yeah,
that's on my to watch list.
Yeah,
like,
she
I've been
is
wanting to watch that for a long time.
She is brilliant in that. I mean, you got Josh Hartnett in it. You have Timothy Dalton.
Josh Hartnett. Nice.
Yeah. I love that show, but it's a gothic type.
Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Yes, that was very good.
I watched that about a year and a half ago.
She was also Vesper Lynd in Casino Royale. Just putting that one out there.
That was tailored.
Yeah, and then she is in this French film called The Dreamers. That is the most French film I've ever watched in my whole life. Is she kind of is shacking up with a brother and sister, and it's just weirdness and like I don't know. It's like I really can't talk about it on a PG rated podcast. So it's just one of those things. But no, she's great. Yeah, so she was Vanessa Ives. Is that what you said on Penny Dreadful?
Yes.
Okay. So but yeah, no, I like her. I've liked her since Casino Royale. That was the first thing I ever saw her in. But yeah. So I mean, but like, so here's the difference though, was like, so we're talking 7 years later. This came out on March 7th, 2014, 300 Rise of an Empire. It was $100 million budget, but it only made $337 million. So, I mean, it barely made its money back. And, but at the same time, it's not nearly as good of a movie because it's based on what was up till that point the unreleased Xerxes comic that Frank Miller had written.
Yeah, so
and that was not a good comic book. So.
I never read the comic, and I appreciate Rise of an Empire for what it was, but one of the issues I had, and I was thinking about this a couple days ago, like as far as doing maybe a podcast and talking about a few sequels that had issues because they did X, Y, or Z, and this one, the issue was it tried to do more.
Yeah.
And it did. And when I say more, again, remember Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder is a fan of the slow motion.
Mm-hmm.
300 Rise of an Empire said, "Hold our beer." Rise of an Empire had even more of the CG, but it wasn't done as well. It had more outlandish things that the characters did that didn't translate as well as it would say in a comic. So as hyper realistic as 300 was, there was a part of it that stayed sort of grounded. While in 300 Rise of an Empire, you have a horse running between ships, going underwater, and then jumping up on another ship that's sinking.
Yeah, it was
stuff
just
like that.
Too much. Do you remember the show Time Tracks with
Yes.
Dale Midkiff? Like that's what I thought of 300 Rise of the Empire. Like that they had that like time stopping ability that the people from the future had in Time Tracks.
Dude, that's an oldie.
That's a solid reference. That's my nerd cred right there. Like that's off the top of my head too.
Dude, that is something special right there.
Yeah, that's special being the operative word. With the length challenged bus that would pick me up. Anyway. Yeah. So no, but like kind of back to 300, right? I mean, it's a movie that was, what was the runtime? And the runtime's, it's just over 2 hours or just under 2 hours. It's 116 minutes. And in that time, you get a lot of just like character development for these soldiers, let alone the fact that you get a fully fleshed out story about Leonidas and you get a fully fleshed out villain with the God King Xerxes.
Yeah. And it's just incredible when you see a movie that has more background, has more, and it has less character development that's long. And again, we see this a lot with it's not just the movie is longer, but for example, Black Widow movie where there was some great character development for one character, but other ones, particularly Black Widow, who nothing really happened to with her
Guardian
throughout,
Red Guardian, or the Iron Maiden.
Yeah. So and again, Florence Pugh was the one.
She's the only.
She
good
was
thing.
phenomenal.
Only good thing.
Yeah, she was
only good thing.
I couldn't talk about her more. I couldn't. She's so good in that movie. They did such a great job with her. But with, like, to your point, there is so much that passes between characters with a glance or here and there, like between, say, for instance, between Leonidas and his wife.
Yeah.
Lena Headey. And, just a couple of the conversations they have. And the funny thing is they talk, when people are talking about how, woman power and trying to get strong women, that's an example of a strong woman, not just for a movie, but the fact that Spartan women were taught in all these things. Spartan women were allowed to speak up about what is going on around them.
Well, when he makes the joke, he's like, we should have sent our women. Like, he wasn't kidding. Yeah. Like, that wasn't a joke. Like, he was like, yeah, our women could take care of your, immortals or your, well, no, they hadn't fought the immortals at that point, but no, like, you're talking about the look, right? The fact that you had to believe that these people had been training together for a lifetime. You look at what Vincent Regan did as Captain Artemis and the looks that they could share. And then when Artemis goes mad at the death of Stelios, or wait, no,
Astynos, yeah.
Right? Like
blood drunk.
Yeah. But the way the way he and Gerard Butler still have that like shorthand language, and then the hurt and the betrayal that Artemis feels, Captain Artemis feels there. And like, what does he do? He takes and he channels it and goes on a suicide mission and kills a whole bunch of people before he dies, and he scares the crap out of those people, out of the immortals. They legitimately feared him.
Yeah, well, they talk about his screams, like putting a chill down the enemy's spines or whatever. And again, this is one of those things that when somebody sees this movie, and I've had discussions in the past, not about this movie, but about like when people talk about war movies and it's just like glorifying this. No, you're missing the point. When now there's again hyper realistic. It's putting an emphasis on the violence, but there's a story there, like you said, Brian, about the camaraderie, about the fact that these guys will lay down their lives happily to protect their countrymen and their wives and all that. And I mean, they will happily do it.
And in and so here, I don't know if this is true or not, but in a lot of ways, like I feel like this is a love letter to like just military people. Like look, we understand your struggle. Like we get it. And you know, we thank you.
And I could see why you would look at it that way too. But I do think there is and again, I don't know if it's because I look at stuff, and yes, I can sometimes derive meaning where there's not, but it kind of speaks. It's like even the first time I saw it, it spoke to me in that regard about like how like the love that these men, these soldiers have for their country, for Sparta or their city state, where they will. And again, it's all, you know, it starts with Leonidas. Leonidas sees if we don't do this, it's not just us that's gonna fall. It's all of, you know, the Greek nation states that are going to fall.
Yeah.
And knowing that, look, that we are basically going, they knew they were going to their deaths. They knew it. And to have that type of courage and to face those type of odds, it's just, you know, I could talk all day about that. And again, to your point, this translates to over thousands of years and many, many men and women who have done that, who have faced that type of threat, whether it be from a soldier standpoint or out on the streets, whatever it is. That type of courage it's something that should be celebrated.
Mm-hmm. Yes, agreed. 100%.
Or 300%.
Yes, or 300%. You literal douche. Anyway, no, I'm kidding. Yeah, it's just one of those things that they're not going to make movies like this anymore, you know?
No.
And it's not to say this is a great film. I mean, it's if I had to venture to guess, I would think it was not certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, even though that's not necessarily like really the
gold
basis
standard
for it. But I mean, it's what we have. I mean, because it's an aggregate, right? It's an aggregate of reviews, and yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that this was before they had the fans being running in there. But this movie was not without criticism. Like Iranians criticized this movie. Iranian Americans, Persian Americans, felt like it was like anti-Iranian, had an Iranophobic bent to it. Like, you know, I mean, we can't not talk about that. I mean,
that was 2007.
Yeah, but they also made the Persians, you know, I mean, they made the Persians like pretty horrible. Like, yeah, you know, and I don't know how horrible they were or not.
And and I will say this, though. This is where most people miss out on what they see in this movie. This movie is being told from the standpoint of Delios, who was picked by Leonidas to go and tell the people what you saw here. Mm-hmm. Everything he's doing it's an overemphasis of stuff. They didn't have the demonic creatures or anything looking creatures like that. Right. That is a master storyteller pumping up the volume to get his men ready for war. Yep. That's what that is. And I've heard people say that again. And it's pretty obvious because it starts off with him talking and how it began, and my king was the one that poked the bear, basically.
Yeah, I mean, like you do, like anyone who's coached or played a sport, you do this, right? Like I coached when Haley was in 5th grade. I coached her team, and we were playing a team that played really rough, right? And I was like, look, and they were a better team, but they played dirty. And I said, look, here's what we're gonna do. We might win this game, we might not. We're shorthanded. We don't have 2 of our best players. So we're going to go out there and we're going to play the Chicago way. And they're like, what's the Chicago way? I'm like, well, you know, they knock one of you girls down, you knock one of theirs girls down, and maybe, you know, you just knock her down harder. And I was like, every time they go up for a shot, I want you boxing them out before they come back down. Every single time. That's not playing dirty. That's within the rules. It's not a foul. As soon as that ball leaves their hand, you box them out. And they did it. And there was a point where one of the girls on the other team was running down, and we were doing an inbound pass, and one of the girls on our team just like threw it in and hit her in the head. Did not mean to do this. It was a total accident, but hit her in the head and knocked her headband off of her. That's how hard she threw it. And like at the end of the game, their coach came up and he was like, you ladies played a hard game, and we respect that. And like, it's like, that's a moral victory. It's not, but it's like, look, you have to like be able to like, and again, like with the Persians being the bully aggressors in this situation, like sometimes you have to poke that bear to say, hey, this isn't the way. This isn't how it's done. And we're going to stand up to you. And we might not win. And we know it might be a hopeless cause, but we're going to fight. We're going to do it together. And we're going to hurt you in the long run, even though we don't win. It's going to be the first of that death by 1,000 cuts that breaks down your empire. Real quick, 61% on Rotten Tomatoes, A- on Metacritic. So I was wrong.
Yeah, I think I remember just the people I was around, and again, a lot of people when we were both there at Fidelity, so a lot of my teammates were looking forward to this movie. And
I mean, I remember talking to you about this as it was coming out. Like, I don't remember if this is. I think we saw this together.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if we did or not.
I don't know. We've seen so many movies together. It's kind of hard to keep track.
So, but yeah, this is a movie that it's one of those movies for me that I could, when we first started talking about this, I can watch this movie anytime. Like it's one of those that
100% or 300%, as the case may be.
There we go. There we go.
So, all right. So let's get to our ratings of this. So out of 10, because it's a movie, 10 beheaded firstborn sons joining you at war. What?
I have other sons, as he said.
You're right. But out of 10 firstborns who have never felt the touch of a woman, what do you rate this?
I give this solid 8.5. Again, I could give it a 10 just for entertainment value.
Give it a 10. A 10. Quote Billy Bob. Yeah, with my love for it, but like putting everything into account, for me, it's a definite 8. So it's definitely 8.5. The degree of difficulty for this was an 8. This was a high degree of difficult movie, because it could have so easily been cheesy.
Yes,
and it so easily could have gone wrong, and it so easily could have been gratuitous and just ugh. So that's why it's an 8, right? And I'm with you. I give this a solid 8.5. It outkicked its coverage. It was better than it should have been. Or let me rephrase that. It was better than it deserved to be. It introduced us to some great characters, some really great actors who did this. Its opening weekend at the time was the 24th highest box office in history, coming in just behind The Lost World, Jurassic Park, and Transformers.
Oh, wow.
So it was at the time also the third highest rated R opening ever, behind The Matrix Reloaded and Passion of the Christ.
Yeah. And also for me, it introduced me to Tyler Bates. He did the soundtrack for this.
Yep.
And how he blended rock and just some type, some hard percussions and guitar riffs with more of the classical, sword and sandal OST. He did the John Wick movies.
Yep.
After that, he did Watchmen. Well, him and Zack Snyder are boys, because he did Dawn of the Dead and a couple of he did Slither, Sucker Punch.
Did he do John Wick 2?
Guardians of the Galaxy, John Wick 2, yes.
Okay. The John Wick 2 score is one of my favorite things to listen to. And the one song from when he's in the club after he kills Gianna. I don't remember her name.
Oh, I know you. Yeah.
And he comes out and he's talking to Common, and he's like, "Are you working tonight, John?" He's like, "I was out, but I'm
Yeah.
back."
Yeah.
That song as he's making his way through the catacombs of Rome is the coolest freaking song.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Putting that out there. All right, let's not belabor the point. Thank you.
If you haven't seen 300, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, if you haven't seen 300, like were you were born after 2007, and you're not allowed to watch it yet. So why are you even listening to this podcast? And or you are maybe in a coma, have been in prison, and they didn't show it at movie night, or you're Amish. So, anywho, just to reiterate though, one, thank you Fretboard for having us last week. That was amazing. We can't wait to come back. Thank you everybody who came out. We expect all of you and more to come back when we're back. Anybody outside of Cincinnati, Daryl has an extra bedroom. You can stay with him if you want to come to that live show. You're okay with that, right? Cooper wouldn't mind.
Yeah. We'll have to talk about this.
the DJASP B&B is maybe not as open as I thought it was. Anyway, but yeah. So thank you for 6 years. Thank you for sticking with us for 300 episodes. Thank you, Daryl, for stepping up and making this past year the best year of the podcast, content-wise, for sure.
I've had a great time doing this, and looking forward to whatever the years have in store for us.
Yes, and I can't wait to fire you.
Are you going to do a Vince McMahon?
No, I'm just gonna do a.
How dare you!
With our girl Greta there. but no, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to do more. And the other thing that we've been doing, and Daryl has been really shouldering the load on this one, is we're trying to be more active on YouTube. We're still not showing our mugs, but we are doing just kind of he's like 8 to 20 minute news segments in the middle of the week for things. When I get back from vacation, I'm going to join in on the fun for sure. So
yep, we'll have a lot of stuff to chat about.
There's so much stuff to chat about, and
so
next week we'll be back. We'll probably talk about T-Man and the Mistresses of the Universe ad nauseum.
So be prepared.
So, or Gila, sorry, not T-Man, Gila, and the Mistresses of the Universe. Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you all for